It's pronounced assemblage. It's a French word like collage, assemblage. And what it is it's to assemble three-dimensional material in an aesthetic manner. You're talking about a football player who's working on art. Probably from a vase or something. It's finding three-dimensional materials that convey some kind of aesthetic understanding. This title is The Friendly Gardener, and it's about life, and it's about family, and it's about nurturing. This garden, what it says is, our whole existence is a garden. So it's not only about family, it's about life. You're out there finding stuff, rethinking it, experimenting with it, confronting it, and then assembling it into something that makes sense. This is about youth. All their potentials of our youth are fenced in. I find things almost everywhere. I used to go to every junk sale, every house sale, every garage sale, and sometimes people's junk. If I'm driving by and I see something interesting sticking out, I'd stop. My wife is furious over doing that, but I had to have materials. By collecting stuff, it's like you're a hoarder, you know? You're got all this junk here. There's not one thing here that's useful or new or worthwhile. And I look at it just the difference. That one's better than the tube of paint. That one's better than 3 paintbrushes. So I collect stuff that I know has a used kind of history and personality. And you take that out of it and you juxtapose it with another piece of history, another object that has a personality. And that's where you get the conflict that makes an assemblage work. It's a person that's looking outside at how cold and foreboding the weather is. And I collected stuff. I didn't know what I was going to do with 99% of it when I found it, but it tickled something in my brain that said, this could be of use. This might make it work. You're creating a whole narrative, a storyline almost, about how these things relate, not just aesthetically, but what they once were, what it once was. So it's putting together a junkyard and making a garden out of it. Young daughter, and all of the possibilities that she will face coming forward through her youth, her adolescence, and her adulthood. It was challenging to find a material, to put the material in there, to recreate it with paint, splatter stuff, spill stuff, rip stuff, break stuff, do all kinds of things to these items to make them relate in a relationship that was really a narrative where you could make a mental and visual narrative out of it.
Jim Ridlon has also produced a number of commemorative assemblages for major organizations, like this one for Disney that celebrated the first 25 years of Disneyland.
Disney, when I was out there, said, we have a Disneyrama show tomorrow. And if you're going to do this commission, we're going to go to Disneyrama show and you're going to pick anything out of there you want for this assemblage. And I'd go down, I'd say, I want one of these, I want one of those, I'd take that mask, I like that hat, yeah, get that hat. And there were 2 people with checkbooks behind me, write checkbook for everything. I had a great big scaffold that I used to tack the stuff up, see how it would line up. And I did most of it before it was glued to the surface underneath. It took 3 weeks. I met the deadline, and like game time, you got to play the game, get it done, win, and then go home and have a beer.
Beneath the big top of American politics, Ridlon made a statement.
The Discord and Dissent exhibition was a political one. Most of the assemblages are critical of politics. They're not laudatory and saying, oh, this is a wonderful speaker, this is a wonderful president, this is wonderful. No, it's the mistakes they make. It's the arguments over nothing but nothing. And it's all of the things that are wrong with politics is in that series. Every committee has to come up with a solution to the problems that's presented. Snip, snip, cut, cut, and that's what you end up with. You go from this, which is bad, you know, and that's what you're cutting away. Some of this stuff up here that's growing, and look at it. You got a highlight here and there, but more of it's a waste. So there's a narrative in this that shows what politics do when they get behind closed doors. He's got a lot to say, and a lot of it is feathers. A lot of it is cotton. A lot of it is sweetness. But what's really underneath and coming out of his mouth is something else. They're not roller skates, they're just two rollers. That's hard to stand up. It's hard to keep that balance. And here, you got the balance. You got two locks swinging in space, each one carrying a truth or a falsity, whatever is the fashion for the day.
At Jim Ridlon's South Woodstock, New York studio, visitors are welcomed with open arms by some well-accessorized greeters. Jim was intrigued by the natural shapes of the wood and transformed them into whimsical figures. However, the main event here is this illuminating exhibition of found objects, which find new purpose.
Well, these were done for a show in New Hampshire, a primitive museum that just showed primitive art. And this particular grouping was portraits, called family portraits. And then this series over here, kind of a visual pun on the way we hunt animals. Each one of these were like, you know how you shoot a deer, you cut its head off and you hang it over the fireplace? That's always kind of insulted my sensitivity a little bit. So I did a visual pun on that. Each one of these were particular animals from different countries. And they symbolized the last one. And I wrote a narrative that went with this that described the hunter, the attitude, and what it felt like to shoot the last gorilla tunda. How it felt to shoot the last one in existence. And it's kind of a sick statement on our society, but I thought it was appropriate.
Growing up in Nyack, New York, was a challenging time for young Jim Ridlon.
My experience as an athlete was particularly important for me because I was dyslexic. I could not read or write. I had problems in elementary school nobody should have had.
But high school was a different story, where Jim excelled on the athletic field and the art studio.
When I got to high school and I could take art courses where it's nonverbal, what a fantastic experience. You could paint, you could sculpt. You didn't have to stand up and read anything. It was just bliss.
He was a three-sport star at Nyack High and captained the football, basketball, and baseball teams his senior year.
I'm looking at colleges. I've got a lot of football offers. I grew up in a very poor family, no chance for college. So I had decided I was going to go to West Point and I could get a military scholarship, if my work was good enough, but I majored in art in high school. The Army does not like art. So it was Syracuse. That was the one that was left. And Les Dye, he was the freshman coach. He said, no, Syracuse has a good art school.
And teaching in the department was
Ivan Mestrovich, and he was considered one of the top 2 living sculptors in the world. I mean, he was a treasure. As
part of their football scholarships, the athletes were required to work a board and room job. Jim took one cleaning Mestovich's studio, hanging around the class, waiting for a space to open.
I showed up anyway, and he'd look at me in disgust, and then he started calling me the tall one. Tall one, empty the waste paper basket, sweep my office, but don't model my model. You're not in the class. Yes, I'm just working on my own.
Finally, one day, Mestovich took notice of his eager student.
He came by me, he said, tall one, and he elbowed me, threw a forearm into me, knocked me out of my place, and started working on my piece. I was in the class. I was actually in the class. That was the greatest moment of my life, I think.
At Syracuse University, Jim Ridlon played in the same backfield with Jim Brown, excelling at any position: defensive back, receiver, and halfback.
In the Holy Cross game, I scored 3 touchdowns 3 different ways. I ran an end around for a touchdown, caught a patch for a touchdown, intercepted a pass for a touchdown. I had a good sophomore year, made Collier's All-American sophomore team. And then came the real world, the varsity under Ben Schwartzwalder, Mr. Angry. He never understood me as an artist. That's one thing about him. He understood everything there was about football, but nothing about art. So when I was playing, he didn't understand. I had studio classes that went to 5 o'clock some days. He said, you come up here in the summer. We're going to put you in summer school so you don't have to stay till 5 o'clock every night. And that's what I had to do. I came up here in the summertime. I enjoyed that. I mean, taking 1 or 2 painting classes in the summer with great instructors, I mean, it was marvelous.
After retiring from his professional football career, Jim returned to Syracuse University, becoming a full-time professor in the university's College of Visual and Performing Arts. And there has always been his artwork, included in over 500 public and private art collections.
I did a lot of works on football, assemblages, several of them.
One of them was this documentation of 100 years of Syracuse University football, composed of donated objects celebrating the school's gridiron gladiators.
They constructed assemblages back in the Roman times. They had a lot of Olympic kind of events, and they would collect things from that to make a narrative out of what happened during Olympic times. So most of the first assemblages were sports relating to what man physically could do. It was the pieces, and that's what's interesting about the medium. It's pieces that you have to put together. It's a real puzzle of material that has to synchronize and create something aesthetic in the process.
a lot of commissions in doing trophies and three-dimensional work.
Including the prestigious Outland Trophy, annually awarded to college football's top lineman of the year. It isn't any wonder why in 1989, the United States Sports Academy named Jim Ridlon the Sport Artist of the Year.
This is one of my first big projects, was a 25-year history of wide world of sports.
From the thrill of victory to the agony of defeat, ABC spanned the globe acquiring artifacts like Muhammad Ali's gloves, Evel Knievel's helmet, and Kathy Rigby's medal.
And I said, Kathy, do you know that this stays in the assemblage? Oh, I didn't know that. Keep it. Keep it so people can see it and remember me. There was a bike that was sent to me for that. And actually, I cut the handle, cut a piece off to use. And it looked real good in the piece. And everything was fine until I get this long distance phone call from Australia. Guy wants to know when he gets his bike back. I said, there ain't no bike. You got to talk to the president of ABC. Get your bike back. Well, they did buy him a new bike.
Hello again, everyone. I'm Frank Gifford. We are happy you are with us. We think we have a good game for you coming up. We have a very interesting game. We know that.
Welcome to Jim Ridlon's first 20 years of Monday Night Football.
There, I played against a lot of people in that poster. Yeah, and I used to point at and say, yeah, Jack Kemp, I intercepted a pass against him, ran it back for a touchdown.
To tell you now about the St. Louis Cardinals, Dandy Don Meredith.
And then there was this guy.
I had a deal with Howard Cosell. They didn't want to feature him. They wanted him in the piece, but not featured. And Howard Cosell called me and wanted me to feature him in this work of art. If any work of art is going to be done about Monday Night Football, I'm Monday Night Football. I want to be featured. I want to be in that piece. Not just one photograph. You got to call ABC. No, we'll take care of Howard, but make sure he's prominent in it anyway, which he is.
Jim spent the first 6 years of his professional football career playing safety for the San Francisco 49ers, while his art studies continued. Taking graduate classes at San Francisco State University, he came under the influence of his teacher, sculptor Seymour Locks, a trailblazer in assemblage and found object construction.
When I majored in sculpture at Syracuse, it was all carving and welding and modeling. And he encouraged me to find a new art form. The title of this one is The Collector. Sometimes the collection runs away with them, and the collection somehow becomes selfish. No one else benefits from this collection except the collector.
And that little counterweight, that would be the center of something to balance.
My philosophy of life is you have to share. That's why I'm an artist. I want to share my thoughts, my ideas, my feelings, my expression with other people. Making art is a disciplined process that requires total commitment. As much commitment as playing defensive halfback in the National Football League.
Football has been one of the dominant themes of Jim Ridlon's artwork, a catalog of timeless moments and memorable men.
And I have never admired anybody in my life the way I have Tom Landry. He was the smartest, most insightful person I've ever met, and the most creative.
Jim played his final 2 years for Dallas Cowboys coach Tom Landry.
I did one piece called Tom Landry, What's Under That Hat? And it was a big hat in it with all these football figurines and ideas flowing out of the hat, because he really was the most intelligent person I've ever known. And I wonder what he would have been like if he were a scientist or an author or anything other than a football coach.
These were done primarily for a show in the Pro Football Hall of Fame.
I had a lot of programs from all the games I played in, and that's what these materials are from. They're cut up and they're done in a manner so that there's a lot more movement in them than if they were still pictures. And it's also the kind of way you see a game when you're playing it and you're making a tackle. You don't see a solid form, and there are things that are happening, and I think it's close to the perception that a football player has of the action that's going on. I mean, I was surprised at the mentality of some football players that I work with. I mean, they love getting down there in a three-point stance and slamming into someone. I didn't like that. The middle linebacker one, they are the ugliest football players in the world. I think they eat gravel and they sleep on rocks and they get up mad at everybody. That's a whole different personality. There are magical moments in sports that I dwelled on. I would say 100% of the time, quarterbacks call audibles in a game. These are all the audibles. You know, he's got 1,000 audibles he can call. And these are the defenses that he's studying. All quarterbacks that I've ever been around have exceptional IQs. Their memories are phenomenal. My unique perception picked up on sports. It wasn't motivated by sports, but it became a motivational thing after I played, and I wanted subject matter, and I had all this material. These are the football players blowing smoke, making themselves sound good, you know, when they're interviewed. It's not the real scoop you're getting, it's their impressions of themselves.
This was commissioned by the Pro Football Hall of Fame for the year Tom Landry was inducted. The gold part of it is actually a silhouette almost of the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Architecturally correct as I could be. And all around this whole thing are football players who would climb the fence, break down the whatever boundary it was to become eligible to get into the Pro Football Hall of Fame. So the whole thing is surrounded by potential members of the Hall of Fame. It was fun putting some of those images in there were people I played against, people that knocked me down, or people I tried to tackle, or people I try to defend pass-wise against.
The one thing I liked about Lane was he could throw a long pass as accurately as he could a short pass. He was one of the best passers, and he liked to stay in the pocket. He didn't like to run with the ball.
And this is like a diary, a visual diary, where you can look at some person, some face, wonder what that person did.
Colts were always a finesse team with Johnny Unitas, and they were always a real good team. They were well organized. They always had great coaching there. They had a great passing game. All of the greats of the sport are located in here. I played against Jim Brown, had a good game, tackled Jim a couple times. I remember him once saying, yeah, you got used to tackling me in Syracuse, didn't you? And I said, well, I never had to tackle you in New York, but it's fun now. Yeah. The whole thing was a work of art that just was so terrific for me because I really related to every phase of it. It was a phenomenal game whenever we went to Green Bay. You knew. The coach said, okay, when you put your helmets on, put them on a little tighter today. He was right, because you're going to get it hammered enough times. So you got your helmet on tight and you put all your pads on. You left your knee pads in for this game. I played against Wyatt Tittle at New York and played with him at San Francisco. He was an elderly gentleman. He reminded me of a congressman. When I got out to San Francisco, I thought he was the equipment manager because he was in the equipment room when I came in, and I'm a rookie. And I said, hey, mister, yeah, what can I do for you? I'm here to get my equipment. Can you help me get my equipment? So Wyatt Tittle says, well, let's come on in here. And he outfitted me. Wyatt Tittle outfitted me. Do you think I could live that down for the rest of my life? Oh, man, I was ruined. I had a bad start there. Chess sets, I love chess sets. Football player. The title of this piece is From Rags to Riches. I came from a poor family. Most of our clothes came from the Salvation Army or garage sales. As an adult, you go through this turmoil, all these problems kind of haunt you. But you come out of that and you grow into riches because of what you can do, of what you can express, of what you can say about the future and about what you're going to do and what you have done. But a lot of love took it there. You know, it doesn't come by itself.
Set! 431! Hot! Hot! That's it, keep going, keep going. On two? On two, on two. Set! 431!